Welcome, folks, to another episode of Invictus Pro Wrestling Power Hour. Alex Aceta here with my partners in crime, Nick Goutman, Ryan Gross, and our special guest, none other than the voice of Invictus Pro Wrestling, the hostess with the mostest, Mr. Ryan Peterson.
What's going on, guys? How you guys doing tonight?
We are doing dandy. Just winding down after a very busy week. We announced our next event for the spring, and the days after announcing a show are always very hectic.
Very excited for the comeback. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it's going to be real good. Actually, later on in this episode, once it's all edited and we air it, we're going to be revealing the first confirmed talents for that show, which is going to be very exciting. But anyway, Ryan, how have you been? It's been a while since I've seen you.
Been good, man. Been, busy with life and everything. Just basic simple stuff. Trying to stay safe, stay healthy, and also, most importantly, stay sane. That's the main thing.
Yep. That's a struggle, dude. It's like I'm trying to just get out there and keep some sort of regiment, some sort of routine in place during these doldrums, the lockdown. But, vaccines being rolled out, so fingers crossed that we'll return to normal sooner rather than later. So Ryan, we got some questions for you. And it was interesting when I was writing these questions because I was like, my thought process was very different from like the wrestlers that we've had on the show in the past. Because I feel like I know you better than them almost because we watch all the matches together, like at the shows, and we just talk.
Right.
Gorilla. So, but for really more for the fans at home, we want to get to know the man, the myth, the legend that is Ryan Peterson. So first question, of course, has to be, how did you first get into wrestling as a fan?
I was just gonna say as a fan or as an announcer.
Yeah.
But so I started, just very casually around like the beginning, actually end of 98, 99, around the Attitude Era. But just like very occasionally, like, once in a while watch it because my mother did not, condone me watching it because I was young. I was like 7, 8 years old at the time. And as time progressed, I kept watching it more and more, just little by little, because my dad loves wrestling as well. So every time I would go visit him on the weekends, because my parents were separated, we we would actually watch, either like SmackDown or Raw that he taped. And the moment that actually made me more as a wrestling fan was actually, funny enough, I actually watched it over the weekend, just, as a little reminisce, because I knew what was going on here, and I knew that was going to be the first question to ask. My first ever live WWE event I've ever been to, which was SummerSlam 2002. Also known as, quote unquote, the greatest SummerSlam of all time, where you had Brock Lesnar and The Rock, Triple H and Shawn Michaels in that no DQ, Shawn Michaels' first match back in 4 years, Edge and Eddie Guerrero, tested, the card was stacked, and that was my first time ever seeing it live. With my mother, actually. So she surprised me with tickets, and I was like, whoa, okay, let's go. And I've been hooked ever since. And then, just casually watching. And then 2007, I'm scrolling through my TV, and I turn on back then it was Spike TV. And it was another wrestling company, which I was like, oh, this is WWE. I'm like, wait, hold on. I see Kurt Angle and Kevin Nash and Scott Steiner, but wait, this isn't WWE. It was Impact Wrestling, so that's how I got hooked on the Impact Wrestling. And then and also seeing like Sting on there, I'm like, okay, that is definitely not WWE. This was like 2007, and then again as time progressed, 2008 actually was lucky enough to go to the Rumble at the Garden in 2008, where John Cena came back, and then I went to right when I graduated high school, 2010, which was, God, I can't believe I'm talking about that already. My mother surprised me with a floor seat for Fatal 4-Way when it was that one night only pay-per-view it was at the Coliseum, 5th row, and I actually have the chair sitting in my closet right now with Randy Orton's face on it. So every time I sit on it, Randy Orton is sitting on my face. Actually, I'm sitting on his face, excuse me. And but just casually, been going to wrestle, WWE at the Coliseum, at the Garden, Barclays Center, just basically watching wrestling is basically all well, besides regular sports, that's basically all I watch is now wrestling more, considering I'm involved in it. So now I'm really looking at it even more in depth.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always interesting to look at it like from the, more critical lens as an insider in the business. But that's awesome. And wow, what an introduction to like live wrestling. What a first show.
Yeah, I didn't know what to expect because I was young, but rewatching it over the weekend, I was like, wow, this really was awesome. I was just enjoying it because it was my first live event.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I remember my first event. It was like a house show at the Garden in like 2003, 2004. And I barely remember it, but I was, Eddie Guerrero did wrestle on that show. So I was very grateful to have had the opportunity to see him live before he passed. No, but that's awesome. So now of course, my follow-up question would be then, how did you get involved in the actual wrestling business? Because I always find it really interesting for people like us who, we work in the wrestling business, but we're not actually wrestlers ourselves, and what our paths in are like.
So right when I started college, went to Manhattanville College, which is up in SUNY Purchase, New York, near White Plains.
Mhm.
And I went there to study music business and marketing and management because I'm also a musician as well. So I wanted to learn how to, get the money aspect of it. And they had an internet radio station, which, I'm like, you know what? I'm 18 years old. I want to try something different, instead of doing the same spiel I did in high school and whatnot. So I tried it out and I loved it. And second semester, I was actually the first freshman in its entirety of, the 30 plus years of the radio station to have a 2-hour time slot on Fridays from like 2 to 4 during prime time. And it was it was so cheesy. I called it Potluck Friday because each week was a different genre. Like one week it was 80s, the following week it was like 90s boy bands, 90s pops, R&B, so on and so forth. It was a different genre every single week. I had 2 hours to kill. So what could I do? And 2 months after I started college, a couple of friends of mine from my old high school who graduated a couple years ahead of me said, "Hey, do you want to come, see us wrestle?" And I'm thinking to myself, wait, they wrestle for WWE? Because I knew nothing about indie wrestling at that time. So I went to their show, which was in Deer Park. It's still around, called NYWC. And it was the first time seeing indie wrestling like up close, because as WWE fans would see, you usually see it from afar, unless you spend like hundreds or thousands of dollars to sit up close. But here it was like a simple like $15-20, and you're right there in the front row, and they're like literally like right in your face. So that was my first time, experiencing that, and then going out, going to the shows more and more, hanging out with all the guys in the back more and more. This was when Tony Nese was still a part of NYWC. Tony Nese, Alex Reynolds, John Silver, and even one of the referees from WWE right now, Dan. I still call him like Danny, but he mainly does SmackDown. So, as I progressed even more, I started going to another wrestling promotion out in Shirley, Massachusetts Beach, which was about 45 minutes from where I used to live. And the guy that ran, the schools out there said, "Hey, I have a training school here." I was like, "Really?" It really wasn't a training school per se, but it was basically the guy actually had a wrestling ring, but it was in his backyard with a massive tent. But it's like, hey, you know what? Why not? So just like I'm sure 99% of people that are, love wrestling, they want to try to get into it. I'm one of those 99 people that said, you know what? Let me get into it. I want to give it a shot. I'm not going to lie. I sucked. I lasted maybe 2 weeks. And I said, that's it. I'm done. So June 2012, that same company that same school had a training seminar with Mouth of the South Jimmy Hart. And I said, Mr. Hart, I can't really wrestle, but like to partake in the training. I mean, not training, but partake in, the seminar matches. So anything I can do? He's like, why don't you try ref in a match? In my horrible Jimmy Hart impression. So I said, sure, I'll give it a shot. And back then, I sucked. So I said, what else can I do? So luckily, the building had a PA system, and the promoter was like, you know, this guy was a radio DJ in college. He's like, why don't you try this? Hand me the mic, and I actually, did what I've been watching on, indie wrestling and regular wrestling announcing. And he actually took his sunglasses off, and he pulled me aside afterwards, saying, "Son, that is the first time in a long time that anyone has made me pull off my glasses in shock and awe. That is your calling." And then 2 months later, I finally made my official debut with that same company in a bingo hall. No pun intended. It actually was a bingo hall, which I found out later on, a year and a half later, it used to be home to the WWF back in the 70s and 80s. And the funnier part about all of this, I hated public speaking. I hated, especially during school when they said, okay, Ryan, come up to the front of the class and, read your report out loud or answer the question out loud. I hated that. I hated it. So literally for an hour before the show, I'm in the locker room pacing back and forth. A couple of guys saw me and says, "Hey, Rain Man, you doing all right? Walking back and forth?" Because I'm sure you probably know the movie Rain Man.
Yeah.
Dustin Hoffman. Yeah, imagine me walking like Rain Man back and forth, saying, "Okay, this is how I say this. This is how I say that." Luckily, I didn't bang into any walls, but as the time got closer and closer, right when they said, "Okay, we're going out to the start," all the fears, all the nervousness, gone in an instant. It was like that internal adrenaline flame in my stomach again, and the rest, as they say, is history.
That's awesome, man, and much credit to you for like sticking with it and just trying to find your niche in the business that you love. I'm sure a lot of people would have just packed up their bags and gone home, but
well, it's funny that you mentioned that too, because back in April of last year, right when the peak of all this happened, unfortunately, I lost my mother. Not because of COVID, but she was sick for a while. But just losing her, my rock, my heart, my soul, the one that pushed me to keep going and going and doing what I'm doing, was gone. And I was in a massive depression for like 3 months. I just didn't really talk to anybody, nothing. And actually was considering, quote unquote, hanging up the suit, as I'm doing the quotes, hanging up the suit and just walking away, permanently, because I just didn't have the itch anymore. And plus the pandemic didn't help either because there was no shows running. But it was mainly more of, me losing my mother. But then July, slowly shows were coming back. And I'm like, you know what? Let me give this another go just to see, if I was into it still. And, well, that's how I found Invictus.
and we're so glad you did.
Which is funny how I got involved in the first show in the first place. You remember that, Alex?
Yes, I do. And I've said this before, but I want to just go on the record and say publicly, like, I'm so happy that we had you like on board, because you just put me at such at ease, because I was freaking out for days leading up to that. And I was like pacing around. I remember something wasn't wrong, like the tent wasn't working. And you just like came up to me, and we had only known each other for like less than half an hour at that point. And you were just like, come on, man. And you just like gave me a hug, and you were like, it's going to be all right. It felt so like all of my worries just like washed away. I was like, all right, let's do this.
And look what happened. The first show was successful, and then you had another one in November, and that was even more successful, and so on and so forth. It will be more successful.
Hockey stick.
And fingers crossed that this vaccine will help and we get more fans in. Who knows? Maybe start running in New York.
Yeah, we're hoping. They just apparently the not the athletic commission, but whatever the governing body is that runs scholastic sports, just approves contact sports. So hopefully the commission will approve it soon too. We can get back to packing houses and taking names. So next question: Who are some of your influences in announcing? Like, do you have any? Because I know that wrestlers always cite their influences.
So mainly just like on the mic, first person off the top of my head was obviously the legendary Howard Finkel. That's the number one, that's I actually met him a couple of times too, on shows that I've not been on, but I've gone to like hang out, and he was a featured guest on there, and it was really cool talking to him. Very nice guy to me, down to earth, and we were just chit chatting and whatnot. Um, Also another one that I look up to a lot, who's on AEW right now, Justin Roberts,
Mm.
and also another announcer on the indie scene. He's like one of the, in my opinion, like one of the top announcers on the indie scene. Actually helped me get involved in wrestling in the first place. Like helped me groom myself. Mr. Juicy Hot Dogs himself, Larry Legend.
Yes. Love Larry. I have never actually had a chance to meet him, but I'm a big fan.
Oh, awesome guy. And like I said, he was the one that helped me, groom into the announcer that I am today. When for the first like couple of years that I saw him, like he took me under his wing, and as I actually found an old status from last week, he sent me a screenshot of an old status of what I said, God, like 8 years ago, and that's pretty much when he said he gave me his legendary status. I'm like, wow, legendary like stamp of approval, or whatever. It was something like that, but that's basically my main. And also I recently started getting into commentary just like by little. So obviously commentary wise, JR, Tony Schiavone, mid 2000s like Jerry Lawler, when he did when he does his what his little antics, which on a few shows I've done, I definitely throw that in there as well. And also a little bit of Joey Styles, especially when it comes to hardcore spots, and I'm the one that's yelling, "Oh my God!" So, so it's a good amount of inspiration announcing wise for us fellow announcers as well.
Yeah, we're definitely going to try to get you on commentary for Invictus at some point, because I would love to.
Oh, you'll be sorry.
That with you. I'm assuming that when you say JR, you mean current AEW JR.
Yes.
Right? Yes, the best incarnation.
Of course.
So next question, what are some of your favorite matches, moments, wrestlers of all time, as a fan? You said, you first got in during the Attitude Era, so you've kind of seen,
Oh yeah. My first like visual like wrestler was Mankind, Mick Foley, when he became champion. That was like my first like real image when he defeated, I think it was Triple H back in like beginning in '99 as Mankind. Fellow Long Island boy, go figures, right? But yeah, just it was not only them, but also as they called them, the Smackdown Six in 2002, which was Rey Mysterio, Edge, Kurt Angle. I'm not gonna say his full name, but CB, and also Los Guerreros, Chavo and Eddie.
Yep.
Those six really were like the key, like people that really got me into it even more. And also the fact that I was lucky enough to not only work with Chavo Guerrero a couple of times, and also Kurt Angle. So that made it even extra special for me looking back on it.
For sure, yeah. No, that's I was a big fan of that same era of the the Smackdown 6 and stuff. I was always like, historically, I was always more of a Smackdown guy.
Yeah, same here.
But maybe that's just me being a bit of a hipster.
No, I'm with you on that same boat, man. Raw was kind of lacking in like
yeah,
mid like from like 2002 to 2004, 2005. SmackDown was just killing it every single week.
I used to think when I was a little kid and I first got into it, I used to think they were like two different companies. Like I used to think SmackDown were like separate things, and I would just dismiss Raw. I feel like
and then NXT came along, and that's just blowing it up everywhere now.
No, you know what it was? Because do you know what it was? SmackDown, now that I think about it, SmackDown during that time, like the Ruthless Aggression era, SmackDown had the Cruiserweight belt. and I really like watching the cruiserweights when I was a kid.
Oh,
I think that was
absolutely.
the reason why I would tune into SmackDown a lot more regularly. So what are some of the more like challenging parts of announcing that maybe people wouldn't expect?
Well, first of all, you got to get the names right. Like, especially if you, but not only, figure out, okay, what's your name, or if it's someone with a really hard name you really can't say, just, flat out ask them, how do you pronounce it? That way you can, work on it in the back. Also make sure that, their hometowns and weights are correct. Me personally, I really don't do like weights and stuff in wrestling because I also do MMA and kickboxing announcing as well. On there, it's different, doing, the standing 6 feet tall. But when it comes to wrestling, it's different because unless it's, it's a really big guy, like for example, Ben Bishop, that's a good example of the proper time to use it. But if it's someone like my size and they want someone to say, okay, it's 6'1", it doesn't really fit really well in wrestling. If your opponent is like the same height.
Yeah. Definitely.
So just basically just that stuff, and also actually no, yeah, just basically that stuff: name, weight, hometown, simple stuff.
Yeah, and keeping all those cards in order too, like when you have the
And also making sure that no matches have changed mid-show.
Yeah, exactly.
I've had that happen on me plenty of times, where I say it's one match, and then I see the competitors come out like, wait a minute, hold on, that's not this match. Oh, they changed it on me. Oh, and they forget to tell me. That's even worse.
And I was gonna say too, the other thing is like I know that you're good at your job because like I've just noticed from the shows that we've worked on together that you'll always like like it'll be like 20 minutes before the bell and you'll just be like casually like getting dressed and I'm like and I'm always thinking like, oh, if that was me, like I would need so much more time like to just like get out all the nerves and stuff, but you're just like
that was me when I first started, announcing it, and maybe like a year into it, that's when I started becoming a little more casual, become more used to it, and so on and so forth. But yeah, like you said, 20 minutes for a show after I'm knocking down, the match order. All right, time to get dressed.
yeah.
20 minutes for the show.
I would want to like get dressed like an hour out so I could like pace around with the cards, like burning it into my brain.
Well, if I still did that nowadays, a lot of buildings are quote unquote hot as heck. I don't want to be dying in my suit already. I'd rather be dying during the show, and then just pray that the show will be done quicker so I can just get the stuff off of me.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was at that Progress show. What were without I'm not going to ask you to bury anyone or incriminate anyone, but any crazy indie show moments that you've experienced or been a part of?
Well, thanks for telling me this now, because now I got to get my shovel out from the closet.
Yeah.
No, crazy indie wrestling moments. First of all, I gotta say off the bat, and this is a good thing. Your first show Invictus' first show in that paintball Uncle Cletus type farm.
Yeah.
Where some of the wrestlers were using hay barrels in some of the moves, and I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah.
But getting back to that first show that I went to, I am not gonna lie. I actually saw someone get injured really badly by let's just say he got another hole in his rear end.
Oh.
That was from my first indie show that I've been to.
Oh man. So trial by fire there.
Actually, trial by barricade spike.
Oh.
That's all I'm gonna say. So Nick, I see you thinking, maybe I should try that move myself. Don't do that, all right?
Okay.
But no, otherwise nothing really too crazy. Just like a lot of positive, feedback. Like a couple of years ago, I had the opportunity to try out with Evolve, and that was, you know, a huge, very huge, you know, step. And Gabe and Trevor loved me, and, you know, we kept in contact. And then unfortunately, COVID happened, and spoiler alert, they got bought out. And then I'm sure this will be asked later on, but, you know, I'll give you a little snippet now. A couple of years ago, I got the opportunity to work with Impact Wrestling, so that was a lot of fun as well. You know, awesome experience, and again, still keep in contact with everyone at Impact, and, you know, see what happens from there.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, that was good. That was going to be actually my next question was, you know, what are some of your accomplishments that you're most proud of? But Evolve and Impact are, you know, nothing to write home about. I also got my first experiences in the business were through Evolve too. So,
and then also another one of my accomplishments is being a mainstay for MMA at Mohegan Sun in Connecticut, in the arena, which is a 10,000 seat arena for those that don't know. So that makes it, you know, makes it even. Of course, I was nervous, but again, got out to the cage and was totally fine.
What promotions do you do for MMA?
So right now, my main promotions, I work with the North American Grappling Association as well as Reality Fighting. They're both.
Oh, I love Naga.
Naga, yeah. And last February,
I competed in Naga a while back.
Back in February, they actually started doing a pro-am event. They did one back in February of last year in Manalapan, which was great. And there was supposed to be another one a month later in Philly, and then April in, I think it was going to be in upstate New York, but unfortunately COVID happened. So
yeah, you see some crazy people come through that whole circuit of competition. I mean, you know, Weidman's done Naga, like a bunch of guys currently in the UFC and Bellator have done Naga. Like, it's a really, really big promotion.
And a couple other companies I work with, USKBA Kickboxing as well, which is around, you know, the metro area. Aggressive Combat Championships, which is up in Westchester, and actually does events at the Westchester County Center in White Plains. And another company, they had another name, but they switched it. They're called Triton Fights now, but they originally were KTFO MMA or MMA Platinum Gloves. I forgot which one it was. And that was like my first event with them. And on that first event was John Gotti's son as one of the fighters.
Yeah. No, if you go to some of the some of the smaller MMA events, you'll see some guys, honestly, like right before they get signed. Same thing with indie shows with, you know, wrestling. It's like, you know, you can see some guys and 2 weeks later they'll be, you know, debuting at NXT or WWE, and you're just like, what the fuck just happened, kind of thing. Same exact thing.
And what's even funnier on that show, you could tell he was John Gotti when he had about like 5 or 6, you know, not security guards, but like, you know, 6 buff guys around him, and he was the only one in the locker room that had that. But you know, I had a quick interaction with him. I had a quick interaction. Oh, Alex, come on, it's the Gottis. Come on.
I listen. I know.
But I had a quick interaction with him, and he was cool with me. So, you know, we were talking for a little bit. I wanted to make sure I got his name, his info right. And, you know, that's it. You know, kick ass, have a good fight, boom, done. And he won that fight, so that's even better.
No, for sure. Absolutely. I mean, I'm sure, sorry to take over. I just have one last question on the MMA side of things.
No, that's fine, man.
What's the environment for you for an MMA show compared to a wrestling show in terms of, like, listen, like, we can all break the fourth wall here. Newsflash, wrestling is scripted. Not fake, but it's scripted. What is it like, you know, going out there again, you know, being around guys who genuinely are trying to mess each other up? And
so it's really not them I'm worried about. It's not really them I'm worried about. It's the fans. Because sometimes those fans are brutal.
They're passionate.
Exactly. And especially when it comes to, let's say a bout goes all 3 rounds and I'm the one that announces the scores and they don't go in the favor. Okay, here's a little story for you guys. There was 3 years ago, I did a show in Albany for a company called Cage Wars. And the main event went all 3 rounds, and I introduced, and then, you know, I said, you know, the scores on the cards, and it went to the guy that won. However, the guy that lost had like a lot of people there, and I swear we had about people throwing water bottles and like like cups in the cage while we were still in there. We were like, what the hell? That was my first time ever experiencing something like that.
It gets nasty, man. It gets very nasty.
It was. And then I think another brawl broke out. Like you said, the fans are super passionate.
Even on a small level, if their person is competing and like it doesn't go their way, they'll get pissed. I mean, I've competed on the amateur circuit in a couple different things, and like, I thankfully, I have, when my family comes, they literally are hoping I lose. I like to think, because they just want to see me get my ass kicked. But it's like, you know what I mean? Like they're genuinely invested in their person, and even if it's cut, right down the middle, it doesn't matter. It's do or die for them. There's genuine like screaming and anger and crying and like intensity if things are going in a certain direction. It's very intense to watch, even as someone who's on the other side of it, but also as a fan just watching.
Yeah, it's and let's just say the fans are not like massive into it as wrestling fans. Like, they don't do again, gonna break the fourth wall here. They don't do the slow counts, they don't do the 1, 2, 3. They don't do that stuff. And even as us announcers trying to get them hyped up, it's very, very difficult to get them hyped. Especially for me, because I'm so used to the wrestling fan crowd. They're always into it and whatnot. And especially when my first MMA show, I almost said Falling Bout scheduled for one fall, but I'm like, nope, wrong event. Thank God I didn't say that on the mic. Mentally, I was thinking, okay, one fall, nope, it's 3 rounds. Okay.
Oh my God. I'm sure. I guarantee you that would have gone one of two ways. Either the crowd would have loved it, or they would have just started booing you like out of the arena, kind of thing. Because some like MMA fans, now that people are like cutting promos, like fighters are starting to realize, hey, like wrestlers are doing it right with like you need to talk to build an audience, and look at Conor McGregor, for example. But they don't like any other element of wrestling. They don't like that it's that fake shit. You know what I mean? Like they're that kind of group of people. But I love that there's an appreciation now for the not pageantry,
Sport.
but the for the promo side of things, for the ability to market yourself.
Especially if it's a high-profile match and you need a good build of video. That's a perfect way to lead right into it.
For sure.
Now that we're on the topic of MMA, just backtracking a little bit. So you said like that you're a mainstay in at the Mohegan Sun Arena. So does that mean like you're like when these different promotions come through, like you're their guy for just that venue? Like, so it's a little different from wrestling then in that sense.
Well, it's only one promotion that's in the Mohegan Sun Arena, which is Naga. So mainly I'm with them. That's the only thing. But otherwise, like other promotions that run in, let's say, massive like sports, like Knights of Columbus halls or other small arenas, I go anywhere.
Right. So how did you make that transition then? Like, so you were sort of established in wrestling and then went over there?
So I went to an MMA show as a fan because again, just like wrestling, I was casually watching UFC, very, very casually, and then I saw that and one of my friends, he said, "Hey, there's a MMA event happening in St. James. You want to go check it out?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" So we go there, check it out and whatnot. And I was talking to the promoter, gave him my business card, my information, and then a month and a half before his before his next show, he called me and said, "Hey, do you want to announce our next show? Be our guy." I'm like, "Yeah, sure, I'll give it a shot. Why not?" And that's how I led into that.
That's awesome. I really want to get more into MMA, just like because I like when that sort of style comes into pro wrestling, like the like the grapple fuck matches or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like, and I feel like I like appreciate like a good fight, but I don't know a lot about it.
Right.
So definitely, and I know, Nick, I should take more advantage of having you as a friend and business partner.
Hey man, it's honestly like it's fun to watch, but it's like very cool from a training side of things to just like
I'm sure.
you see it so much from a different perspective when you're like, all right, they're in this transition. What do they need to do from there? But hell yeah, man. Listen, I'm always down to talk MMA. We could make a whole other podcast out of it. Who knows one day.
Oh yeah. Well, that's awesome. So last question before we move on into the fan questions, Ryan. So we talked about some of your accomplishments that you're proud of, but what are some of your goals moving forward? 2021, blank slate. Hopefully COVID is on its way out.
So basically, still do what I love doing. Obviously, still announcing in places that I love, like Invictus, but also Titan Championship Wrestling, Wrestle Pro, Creator Pro, and actually that's all I can think of right now off the top of my head that's actually running. But I'm in talks with a couple other promotions like in the East Coast area, like mostly South Jersey that may be working with within the next few months. So we'll see what happens. But my main goal is at this point, just to get noticed by, WWE, AEW, even Impact or any major major promotion, to showcase my voice on.
Awesome, man. That's all you can hope for is just continue to grow, continue to get more eyes on you. So that's all we got for our own questions, but we do have some fan questions that have been submitted over this past week. Nick,
Can I just ask one quick question?
Yeah, oh yeah, sorry.
Do you have anybody in particular that you like? Do you have a favorite introduction, like when introducing someone to the ring? Do you have any favorites in particular?
That's a good question.
Like my favorite like wrestlers or whatnot.
Like just to introduce them.
Definitely. Right off the top of my head, I can think of two people. One of them is Tommy Dreamer because I've worked with him so many times on many shows and even on Impact. Also, I don't know how you guys feel about him, but I respect him. The Greek god Papa Don.
Love their pizza.
No, I've known Papa Don for a little over 10 years, and as a fan, got to know him personally, and just working with him announcing wise, he's like one of my favorites to work with. Also, Wrecking Ball Legursky. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. It's tough. It really is tough. I'm like, finally got to do Gangrel last year. That was fun.
That's awesome.
That's all I can think of right now. There's a whole. Oh, wow. I'm sorry. One more person. Actually, two more. Road Warrior Animal and Bret the Hitman Hart.
Hell yeah.
Solid choices.
So I do have to apologize to our fans for this week. In the aftermath of dropping the banner or whatever, announcing the show, notifications get flooded, and after a while things go further down the tier and they eventually go into nothingness. As I'm scrolling through now, I can only see two in the most recent before. So I do apologize. I will screenshot them as they come in next time moving forward. Lesson learned. But of the two questions asked, Vincenzo Galvano wants to know, what is the hardest name that you've had to announce in a It could be either or, because I know MMA, you get some interesting ones as well.
It's funny. It's funny because when it comes to MMA, I really don't know like any of the, the fighters off the top of my head right now. But I'm trying to think wrestling wise. Oof, man, Vinny's got me on a stump there. Okay, there was one name that I've always had the hardest time to say until recently, and he's another indie wrestler. His name is Batsu Kusanagi.
Mm.
Oh, he's a super crazy guy, right?
Super crazy New Evolution Wrestling. But he was at the tryout camp that we were at. But yeah, my first time doing it, I'm like, wait, how do you pronounce that? Batsu?
Oh, that's very cool. I can imagine, especially you hear some funny botches on Botchamania and stuff of announcing, but you've been 10 out of 10 the full way through, my guy.
I wouldn't say 10 out of 10, but thank you.
Second question that I have, and you're a 10 out of 10 in my book, Ryan. Next one comes from Robbie Wearer 11. He goes, "What is the?" Again, I'm trying to not step on any toes here. I'm trying to rephrase this question. What is the, without naming any names, what is the worst experience you've had with a promotion or / promoter?
Oh, okay. Okay, here we go.
You can remove all names or do some.
Don't worry. I'm not
anything.
saying the name of this because they had like a one-show deal.
Okay.
But you're gonna tell us after we pause the recording, right?
You damn
That's a
right.
Patreon exclusive.
Patreon fans only. You know the deal. So there was one show. I will tell you where it was. It was in Jersey, and it was back in 2016. That's all I'm gonna say on camera.
That narrows it down.
And narrows it down to like every other show.
Yeah.
I show up I got booked on a show a month beforehand. Was talking with the promoter and whatnot. This promoter liked my stuff, and we talked pricing and everything worked out well. And I have it on a written contract that's how much I was getting paid. I show up to the building. The promoter's not even there. He's not even in the state because he lives on the West Coast.
God.
So they had a couple of the wrestlers running the show. Now, this was their version of WrestleMania per se, as they called it. They had apparently they did a show 6 months prior. They haven't ran a show since. They call this their season finale, whatever it was. They had about 20 matches on the show. 20. The show started at 7:30. We had to be done by before 11 o'clock. And it's not because of state curfew. It was because of owner curfew and town curfew. 20 matches.
How is that possible?
A little bit of this.
A little bit of the bubbly.
I wouldn't say bubbly. So
It went flat by the time the show was over.
It went flat by the time the show started. All right. So I'm looking at the card. I'm like, this is gonna take freaking forever. So me and one of the wrestlers, we're in Gorilla, and I'm helping them rewrite the freaking show. Knocked it from 20 matches down to 12.
Hang on. I'm sorry to cut you off. It sounds like Herb Abrams hired you. Like, this sounds like UWF.
I mean, maybe because we didn't get a chance to see the promoter.
There you go.
I will say, a few notable names that were on the show because, well, obviously we were the only ones that got. Well, I'll get to that in a little bit. Yeah. Went from 20 matches to 12. Pretty much, there was so many Fatal 4-Ways and Fatal 4-Way tag matches. I swear to God, we should have called it Tagamania because that's how many there were. Or we should have done our own version of Fatal 4-Way.
Fatal 4-Way fuckery.
Yeah, that's exact. Fatal 4-Way clusterfuck. That's exactly what it was. And oh my God! And the best part about it, 3 fans. 3 fans showed up. And what makes it even funnier about this whole thing was the show was in a building that I do shows all the time in Jersey. That's why I got booked in the show because I said, hey, look, this is my home. and it would be kind of kind of cool for me being the hometown and the homegrown announcer, whatever it was. I said, be easier for me to go in there and announce. In there, he's like, okay, no problem. So that's how I got into that, and that entire time I was talking with the promoter who also owns the building of the real promoter of the other promotion that's always there. We were talking for a bit, laughing hysterically about everything, and again, 20 matches to 12 matches, but there were moments they were like, how do we keep this story from going on? Okay, how about sending a heel and a face as a tag team, but having the heel screw over their own partner? Come on, it's not rocket science, folks. Come on. So basically, I went from announcer to booker, storyteller, announcer, and at one point even a fan, because I had to be a seat filler to sit in with the rest. I swear we had about, I think almost a little over 50 people in the locker room. 50.
Christ.
And the best part of it all, only 3 people got paid.
I was about to say, it's not a lot of money coming in.
One of them was me, and it was my rate too.
Hell yeah.
But also, Jonathan Gresham, before he was big in Ring of Honor, and Jordan Grace.
Oh.
That's it.
Oh.
Were they together at that time?
Yeah, and they're still together now. Yeah.
No, I know. I was wondering if they were like, if that had something to do with it.
I think they were just maybe a year into their relationship at that point. This was 2016, so.
So
now they're married.
My memory has failed me after slowly losing IQ points by the day for extracurriculars, but I do remember one of Zane's questions. So for any new listeners, Zane's the heel of our promotion. He's the guy who asks all of the bad guy questions to draw some heat every week. So this week I do remember
from the first show, Ryan, our friend that came in from Chicago and was like,
oh yeah, Zane,
yeah.
Wasn't he like your college roommate or something?
He was
like
my
that?
college roommate, yeah.
Oh yeah.
And he was just, dude, he was like, his nipples were like hard from just like the power that we had like equipped to him. Like he's like, I get to like tell these wrestlers what to do, and they like listen.
Like,
no, you do not.
So his question was, can you please convince the Invictus team to start paying you more so you can not wear such a crappy suit?
Oh, fuck him.
And it's funny, coming from a guy who lives in a city where lately the Bulls have been sucking, the Bears have been sucking. How about those Cubs and White Sox? I'm just saying. Actually, no, I'm sorry. The Cubs haven't been good since 2016. And not to throw even a little more shade, but considering what happened to their general manager just recently, their former general manager, who was the current Mets manager, but then got fired. I'll tell you more later.
And their pizza.
Sorry, their pizza.
Okay, hold on.
It's a pie. It's literally a pie.
Hold on. I like that shit too. All right. I'm just saying. I'm a true New Yorker, but I love Chicago. That's the only thing that's relevant from Chicago.
It's a lasagna in a nutshell.
I like it too. It's not a pizza.
Yeah, exactly.
It tastes delicious. It's not a pizza.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Zane will be watching this, but Zane, I know your nipples weren't hard because you had the power. You were just hard because you wanted to see some sweaty guys half naked in the ring beating the shit out of each other. All right, just saying.
Who doesn't?
Anyway. Who doesn't? That's oh god.
But since I did miss some of the fan questions, I'm just going to rattle off some quick ones. Whatever comes to mind, just quick speed around. Favorite current movie?
Current movie, I gotta go. Oh god, it's been a while since I've seen so many movies recently. Let's get back to that one. I got some. Pass.
Okay. When you're in the city, favorite place to get pizza?
Oh, these are. I know this sounds.
You are not good at this quick fire round, my man.
I suck, man. I suck. Especially, I haven't been to the city in a long time, man, because I haven't been able to go into the city.
Well, you're a Long Island boy, though. You got to pick that Rosa's or whatever that place is in Penn Station. Like where people just go when they're fucking shit faced, like on their way to catch the train back out to.
You know what? Yeah, I didn't think of that. Roses. Yeah, that's definitely me.
All right, favorite type of beer that you like to drink?
IPA.
Oh. Genre of music that you like to listen to?
Rock.
Old school, you into some modern stuff?
A little bit of old school and like REO Speedwagon, Led Zeppelin, AC/DC, and even current ones like Ask Alexandria, and
Hell yeah.
Yeah, just a mix of like rock in general.
Current favorite wrestling product to watch?
Ooh. Besides Invictus Pro Wrestling, I gotta say AEW because I know a lot of the guys personally on the roster, so it's good seeing them progress.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I mean, listen, that's all the ones of mine. If you happen to think of your favorite movie at any point later on, shoot it my way. I'm a big movie guy, so always looking for new suggestions. But that's the end of my question.
I'll tell you the recent one I saw recently, Beer Fest. That's all I gotta say.
Oh, I love that movie. That's such a classic.
I haven't seen that in so long. I saw it recently. I'm like, oh, I remember this.
That's the Super Trooper guys, no?
A classic.
Beer Fest, the Broken Lizard guys.
But they think papa.
Time to Shiza or get off the crapper.
Are they making Pot Fest or no? Is that just a rumor?
I think that was a rumor.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I don't know.
I think it was ever in the works.
I know they left on that cliffhanger, but it's been so long. But you never know. I mean, sequels came out. Just never give up hope. Let's start a petition.
Actually, going back to the favorite movie, I thought of another one, and this is more like a childhood one. The recent version of The Lion King from 2 years ago.
I haven't seen that yet. Actually, I need to.
Not to show any spoilers, but if any of you remember Mufasa's death, they go into a little more. It's a little more detailed because it's computer generated. So it's like, oh, you really feel it.
Damn.
I was like watching all the trailers. I didn't actually see the movie, but I was watching the trailers, and I don't know. I feel like when they're like too lifelike, it's like, I don't know. I don't feel as connected to them for some reason. I feel like
they did a phenomenal job. I will give you that. They actually did a really good job.
It's also just very hard for me to watch any sort of remake of a classic movie because I always feel like I'm going to be let down in some capacity. But I'll take your word for it, man.
Then don't see Mulan. That's all I'm going to say.
I didn't even know they made a new Mulan. That's how out of touch I am.
I refuse. I refuse on principle. No Mushu.
And I have Disney Plus, so it's like, yeah, I ain't gonna watch that.
Did you? That is it from my end. Oh, sorry.
No, I would say, did you actually watch Mulan, or you just skipped it?
Oh, I skipped it because I saw just like Alex said, no Mushu, no go for me.
I mean, I'll tell you, the first red flag was when Disney said they were cutting the music. I was like, ah.
Yeah, that's another one too. I was like, oh, how can you not?
Slaps. How can you?
But it's also like when they did Cats.
I haven't seen that.
I'll tell you,
I heard it was shit.
I've seen Cats.
Was amazing.
Really?
Wait,
yes.
Wait, what'd you say?
Like they did a theatrical. They did a theatrical version that was on VHS when I was super young. That one was so good.
But that wasn't a movie. That was like a filming of the stage.
Exactly. No, it was a theatrical show that they recorded but released.
And funny that you mentioned. I'm sorry to cut you off, Brian, because I
was gonna say, I actually saw Cats on Broadway when they brought it back, and I mean, when you go see a show on stage, it just kind of draws you in. The stage show was really good. I mean, maybe not from a story point standpoint because it was kind of weird, but it was entertaining. The music was good.
Well,
it was a lot
good
of fun.
Weird.
Well,
yeah, exactly. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Well, a little fun, fun Easter egg. I'm actually a big fan of Broadway musicals because that was the first thing I loved before I got into wrestling in the first place.
Look. I don't know if you can see. I got my Book of Mormon poster.
Hell yeah,
stage, dude. I'll tell you, them canceling Beetlejuice on Broadway was probably the biggest crime of Broadway last year.
Dude, the entire
Beetlejuice was so good.
Dude, the entire show's on YouTube. I actually found the whole show on YouTube.
Oh yeah, you know what? it's worth it. If you know, it kind of sucks that it got canceled. It was doing bad for 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden, because it got bombed, it bombed in the reviews, critic reviews, but it picked up with word of mouth, and the show became a monstrous success.
Oh, absolutely. I finally watched the entire thing, and I
Yeah.
been binge watching. I'm actually on like number 3, the third time watching this. But getting back to what you guys are saying about cats, I remember back when I broke my leg back in 2000, the original run. I was in a wheelchair. My mother actually got me and her tickets to the second to last day it was on Broadway. I was in my wheelchair, and we actually went and saw the
wow.
the final run, which I think that was over
That's
20 years
amazing.
ago now. And actually, the last show that I've ever seen on Broadway was 6 years ago when my mother and I saw Aladdin.
That's amazing.
Aladdin, you know, they're putting that on Disney Plus. I actually saw. My wife is very mad at me because she went on her bachelorette party, and my mom got me tickets for my birthday for Aladdin. So my wife didn't get a chance to go see me, but it was really good.
It was really good, yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
another Easter egg: the guy who won the Tony to be in the genie is also a hardcore wrestling fan.
Do you know?
Hell yeah.
This is like
James Monroe Hart.
The original guy who played Jafar in the cartoon actually played him on Broadway.
Mhm.
I didn't see him. It was his understudy who did a great job, but I just always thought that was really cool too, that they brought the actual Jafar for the stage show.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But yeah, that's just a little known fact of not only you but also the fans out there. I'm a Broadway buff. I actually have a storage container of like old like playbills and programs and shit
Yeah.
actually in my storage unit, because that's how much I loved it, and that's what I wanted to get into music in the first place. Was one of my goals was to possibly be in the pit of a Broadway musical, because I play trombone as well. I played trombone, drums, jazz guitars, a little bit of vocals like later on, but my main instruments were drums and trombone. So, but then it transitioned into wrestling. So that's okay.
That's pretty cool. Listen, next time we see each other in person, we gotta talk more Broadway. It
Oh,
sucks because
absolutely, man.
before COVID happened, I got an email back for the Jew Jampson theaters, which they Mean Girls, Book of Mormon, and everything. They run 5
Mhm.
theaters, or 5 or 7, and we were like talking about doing like a job for customer service, and then COVID happened, all the theaters shut down. It was so heartbroken because I was just so looking forward to that job interview. You know?
I had a whole like bucket list of shows I wanted to see before COVID even happened. One of them was the book. One of them was the Book of Mormon.
Yeah, I've seen the Book of Mormon twice. For me, it was Mrs. Doubtfire. I wanted to see Mrs. Doubtfire, but then
I didn't even know that
everything
was
got
actually
shut
coming out.
down.
I didn't
Yeah,
even know that was coming out. I'm like, wow. There was another one. Alanis Morissette had a show coming out.
Oh,
I think it
Jagged
was
Little Pill.
Jagged Little Pill. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that actually won a bunch of Tony Awards. It sucks for the Tonys this year because a lot of shows didn't come out, so a lot of shows got double nominated. Like 2 actors in each show got nominated for Best Actors, and that's the last time that happened. I think was Book of Mormon, and then before that, the producers. So that's not like a common thing to happen.
And one thing I love about Disney Plus, they have Hamilton on there. So I'm like, done. Still haven't seen it, but it's on my watch list.
Yeah, same.
I've
It's
never seen
funny
Hamilton.
for all the hype.
I haven't
I've
either,
never seen it
but
either.
it's literally Nick. It's literally the groundbreaking. There's a reason why tickets are at least $500 to get.
I mean, okay, I work with a lot of kids in my camp, and quite literally, that's every song that they requested on the bus to camp was just Hamilton songs. So I have a love-hate relationship in theory, just because of how many times I'd hear the same songs for 2 months straight over and over again. But I'm sure it kicks ass. So I need like a couple more therapy sessions to completely overcome it, and then I'll be good for round 2.
I have to throw my Broadway hat in the ring. I saw Kinky Boots with when Brendan Urie from Panic at the Disco was playing. What's his name?
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. It was a life-changing experience. I practically went deaf from all the girls screaming, but yeah, it was nice. A lot of fun. I'm a big Broadway fan as well. I think the last show I saw was To Kill a Mockingbird, which not a musical, but still on Broadway.
Yeah.
Oh, is that the one with Jeff Daniels?
I missed out with
It was
Jeff Daniels' run. I saw, damn it, who's the guy that replaced him? He's another famous actor who replaced him. But the thing I thought was very entertaining about that was at one point, you know, they have like child actors that play Gem and Scout in them. At one point, they were supposed to run across the stage in like the background while the adults are talking. And the girl who played Scout mid run across the stage broke out into a Naruto run, what was very obviously a Naruto run. And I think I was the only person in this theater full of like old people who like saw it. And I literally like stood up. I was like, she did it. I was like, she did the thing. But,
And it's funny. I'm imagining that too, and having people behind you saying, "Well, yeah, shut up down there."
yes, this is
Have
the
you ever-
theater. This is no way to behave yourself.
This
Have
is
you
no
ever
way
been
to
to a
behave yourself.
show?
This is no way to behave yourself in the theater.
Yes.
You know, it's funny because Broadway's always kind of had that snobby perception, but I've never seen it firsthand. The people I've actually talked to in the theaters are very nice people.
Oh yeah, no.
It's all like tourists from the Midwest that are like in
Yeah.
movies, like, you know.
I feel like in the last like 15 years, like the mindset, the mood has changed.
Yeah,
for-
you're there to
for, you know,
enjoy stuff, like,
Well, not even like the last 15 years. Like, you know, if you think about it, when people say they go to the theater, they dress up in, you know, like suits and, you know, Gap dresses and whatnot. But then as the years progress, you know, it kind of, you know, goes down to somewhat, you know, casual, but also, you know, like a sport, you know, casual, sporty look. And the last show I went to, God, they had someone like a t-shirt and shorts. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah.
I will say this as the last thing on this topic. I really think at some point we need to book a wrestling musical review, and I would, yeah, love you two's gentlemen's assistance with that. What's his face? Wade Kruger from the Stepdads is also a very big Broadway fan, so him as well. But yeah, sorry, I have more questions from Facebook. I hope I'm saying her name right. I think this is a friend of yours, Ryan. Summer Kleiman asked.
Oh God. Yeah, I know her. What about it? What about her?
If you weren't ring announcing, what is your second choice of a career? I think you kind of touched on that already.
I've kind of touched on that. You know, music in general. Just, you know, either being on stage in a rock band, because I was in a rock band for a couple of years. So anything involving music.
Nice. What did you? Oh, you said you played drums in the band.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. I was in a band too for a little bit. Played slappity bass, man. My next question. Philly Trollman asked, "What was your first thought of the first Invictus show being on a farm?"
First of all, when I pulled in, first thing I thought was, is this the right place?
Thank God for the guy holding the sign outside.
No, this was before the guy was holding the sign, because I didn't know where to go. All of a sudden I pull up and I see, you know, the house. So now I'm thinking to myself, okay, it's a combination of possible Texas Chainsaw Massacre happening now with the farm and what. Then after finally getting a hold of you, Alex, you know, we found out it was in the back, so that worked out so much well. And then having a couple of the students stand up at the end of the freaking driveway saying, "Show here in the back," which I think that was a smart move.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it was fun. It was fine. I think I literally caught like hay fever a day later. No pun intended, because there was so much hay. And I think, thank God I didn't have any hay stuck on my nose, or else I would have been like, "Oh, look, a hay needle." But it was an experience. But you know, it was a fun experience. First show with a brand new company, which a lot of people can say, you know, a lot of people can't do during this pandemic, of opening up a brand new promotion during the pandemic. And that's what I give all of you guys major credit on. Because when people think, you know, opening a show in pandemic, it's like, it's kind of risky. But what you guys have, it's top quality matches that make people want to come to the shows. Like the first show, we had about over 125 people, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I mean, I think all in with like the crew and everyone, yeah. And
Also, I'm talking about fan wise,
Yeah, I think we sold. Well, we don't have to talk about how many tickets there were. But it was a sellout officially.
It was a sellout.
That's all that matters.
It was a sellout while following regulations. That's the thing to say.
Yeah.
And then the next show in Flemington, at that outside in the parking lot of that hockey center.
Yep.
That was like your bigger, the bigger crowd out of both shows, and the crowd was, well, first of all, it was a beautiful day. It wasn't hot, wasn't cold. That was the one thing that kills me about the show in September, when it was just too muggy.
Yeah.
And I think being on the farm did not help, which is probably why I caught hay fever a day later, because it was just so hot. But regardless, Alex, just don't take that as a knockdown at all. Otherwise, it was a fun experience, and I'm glad that you kept me after that.
Yeah, man.
That first show will be an experience that we will tell countless times. You know what I mean? Like, in terms of just all the shit that happened going in, all like the not even missteps, but like basically everything that could have possibly gone wrong went wrong for us, and we still poker faced as much as possible till the end. And I will never forget this.
Pulled off a great show too.
Yeah, and I will never forget this. Alex and I are in the car. We're driving out of there. We're the last people to leave. And as we're leaving the property, it starts to rain.
I remember that. Yeah.
And Alex just lets out a deep sigh and goes, someone up there is watching over us. I don't know what, but like someone is making sure shit happened for us today. And that was the truth, man. Like no matter what was thrown our way, we got the job done. And that to me is why like that story is so amazing. Also just the fact that the location's awesome, but
it's a good story too.
Yeah.
Rooster was quite a character.
I call him Uncle Cletus.
Yeah. I'm not over the fact when we first pulled up, because some of the Team 3D guys had already showed up, and they were just standing there like with these looks of just like abject horror on their faces. I got out of my car, and Dennis Morgan comes up to me, and he's just like, dude, he's like, I'm really afraid of this guy. He's like,
I don't know if anyone saw this, but when you first pull onto the property at the entrance, there's a sign to the left, and the sign to the left says trespassers will be shot on site. Yeah. And I was like, oh, I cannot wait to have all these strangers who have never been here before start strolling in. Should end perfectly well.
Dude, the guy, he had like a 9mm in his waistband.
Yep.
Oh, jeez.
He showed it to the ring crew.
He was strapped.
Yeah, he's like, if any of those like social justice warriors show up, he's like,
oh God.
So it's like, what?
No, definitely an experience.
One more question. This is from Joe Grimont. It's a two-part question. You kind of already answered the first one, which is how did it feel ring announcing Invictus Pro Wrestling's first ever show? But the second part of that question is also, was it difficult without a mic?
Honestly, not really, because I've done shows where no mic was needed. Okay, now I'm going to tell all of you what happened. So I have a speaker and a microphone. I always have it with me. And I didn't realize this from the last time I used it, but apparently I was missing a certain wire to connect from pretty much the power cord from the back of the speaker to the outlet, which I didn't even notice until I opened the box up at the place. I'm like, oh, crap. So needless to say, but honestly, my voice somewhat projects, loud enough, and it kind of echoed around the middle of the field, so it kind of worked out well, with the, just my voice being itself.
Your voice was louder than the DIY like speakers that we used at the corners of the ring. We just needed you basically to sing all the songs. You know what I mean? It would have just gone.
Sponsored by Bose.
Exactly.
And then we had speakers on the last show, and thank God we did too.
And that's going to be like, that was the one thing after the first show. Like, I was like, if there's one thing that like we need to do for this next show, is have speakers, because it was, in my opinion, one of the very like farm shit aside, I can deal with that. If there's not music, like that's a huge part of it to me.
Yeah, really brings it.
And literally a week later, I actually went online and bought a power cord, so that I was set for for life now on that one.
Smart man.
Well, I just thought it was funny because like Ryan, when we were talking before the show, you were like, yep, you're like, I got my my speaker, the cable, everything, and you're like, I'm good to go, and I'm like, awesome. So I'm like off doing something else, and then I just hear you like off by the generator, just cursing like a sailor. And I'm immediately like, having only known you for like less than an hour, I could still tell that's like very out of character.
Oh yeah.
So I like came over and I was just like, what's going on? And you're like, fucking guy that I love the power cord too. Didn't you?
Oh my God, yeah.
And then you're just like, by that point, like people are starting to come in into their seats. You just looked at me and you're like, all right. You're like, could you be loud? Because I was supposed to come out and do the speech.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah. I was like, I was a teacher for a few years. I could be loud. And you're like, perfect. We're doing it without a mic.
And then the last time, and then I'm trying to remember. I don't know if it was you, Nick, or you, Alex. But at the last show, I called you over and said, "Hey guys, come over here, and then went to the microphone and said, "We have speakers."
That was me.
That was you. Okay.
I didn't realize how loud the speakers were, and I was like quite literally 2 inches. Like my ear was 2 inches from the speaker. He does it, and I just go flying back. Like, holy shit!
Well,
I mean, it works.
Exactly.
It did work. And my biggest concern was that the it wouldn't pick up on the film without the mic, but it actually did. So
yeah,
it all worked
very well. It worked very well.
Yeah, so that worked out very well. All right, so that concludes all our questions. We're going to be moving into our game of the week now, which is entitled appropriately for you, Ryan, "Making Their Way to the Ring."
Oh God.
All right, welcome back, folks. We are now moving into our game of the week, which is called "Making Their Way to the Ring," as I was just explaining before we started rolling. The way this game is going to work, Ryan, as our resident MC, we're going to show you some pictures. We're going to go through a slideshow with some pictures of different celebrities and personalities, and your job is going to be to improvise off the cuff, because you have not seen these pictures before. You don't know who's going to come up. You're going to improvise an introduction for them as if they were making their way to the ring or the cage for a match.
I hope I know who they are at first.
I think they're all pretty common people, or people that you would recognize. But
if not, people do not hate me. That's all I gotta. That's a little disclosure right now. If it's nobody that I don't know, please, and I mean please do. Oh God, I can see the first one already.
All right, so
I saw a good one on that list.
Making their way to the ring. All right, so we'll start off with a low ball here. Yeah, very timely.
Oh boy. Making his way to the ring, hailing from the steps of the Capitol by way of his chair with no one else around him, the man who is an internet meme across the globe, the one and only Bernie Sanders.
Beautiful. I
can't do that with a straight face either.
How much? I was gonna say, how much do you think he weighs if you had to get that in there?
Oh, jeez.
With all this bundled up, with his mittens. Those mittens alone have to weigh
$125.
Yeah.
$120. I was thinking $130.
Yeah. All right.
He can face Casey Navarro.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see what else. All right. So I actually don't know which one this is. I forgot.
It's the one that's a douchebag. Oh wait, that's both of them.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know if this is Jake or Logan Paul, but
Oh, jeez.
I think it's Logan. I don't know.
I'm thinking just by. Here's the. Again, like I said before, don't hate me if I don't know some of these people. I'm just going based off what I see in front of me right now, since this is Logan Paul. Okay. Apparently, making his way to the cage, fighting out of the red corner, hailing from potentially an equestrian field just by looking at his hat. He is one half of the confusing Paul brothers. This is either Jake or Logan Paul.
Perfect. I like how you did say cage, because he would be. He has done boxing, not MMA.
Oh, there you go.
Wouldn't be the cage though.
Well, no, I'm saying like it's closer, I guess, to like.
Is this the one that's gonna fight Floyd Mayweather?
Yes.
That's him, right? Okay.
Yeah. And he's like 8 inches taller and 45 pounds heavier, and he's still probably going to get his ass kicked.
Oh, I hope so.
I hope so.
I hope so too.
Jake Paul needed to be humbled after that showing last month before the Tyson fight. Let's see what else we got here. Oh, okay. We got Big Fouch.
You know what's refresh my memory, because I really don't follow like politics or anything like that as much.
This is Fauci. This is the doctor.
Oh,
Yeah.
This is Anthony Fauci?
Yeah, Anthony Fauci.
Okay. Okay. Hailing from Washington, D.C., weighing in at an IQ of 2020, no pun intended to the year of 2020, the man who knows a lot more about coronavirus than, well, pretty much anybody else in the entire world, Anthony Fauci.
Nice. Wrecking Ball is watching this right now and making the Arthur fist. Good stuff. What else we got here? Oh, okay.
Oh God! Oh, this is a good one.
Speaking of 2020,
Yeah.
this feels like this feels like it was 10 years ago. Wow.
I know, right? All right. Okay, hailing from the great state of Florida by way of Netflix, accompanied by his beret of tigers, the man who should get a full pardon, but for some reason did not get a full pardon, the man who did not kill Carol Baskin's husband, Joe Exotic.
There we go. Beautiful.
You know, I think they actually had a limo outside waiting for him too. They really
did.
thought, yeah.
I did hear about that.
You know what? It was a modded limo though. It was like a pickup truck. It had like an open pickup truck bed on the back. Yeah.
Oh God.
Technicalities, he's from Oklahoma, not Florida. He should be from Florida. He definitely looks like he should be from Florida, but
He's got Florida man written all over him.
he radiates Florida man energy.
It's the hair. That's what it is.
The hair. It is the hair.
It's the hair and the tattoos, I think.
Probably, yeah. Oh, Tiger King. Simpler times. All right, let's see what else we got here. Oh, here we go.
Yo, didn't Virgil pop out his nuts in a cameo?
He did.
He did, right?
Oh my
man.
God.
He did. He whipped out his junk in a recent cameo.
Oh. And what sucks too, I like Virgil though. I like him. Oh God. Okay. Hailing from a convention center near you, the man who randomly shows up with all of his stuff without an invitation, the lonely former WWE superstar, Virgil.
Nothing about his junk?
I'm trying to keep it PG, my man.
Okay.
I like how he in this picture he has the banner folded. Like the Aussie part is like folded back, but you still see the little ampersand.
And Virgil.
I've actually seen them sell pins of this very Virgil, him sitting in front of a convention table with that same sign.
Yeah,
They actually sell pins like that.
he's got to get that fuck money somehow.
We all got to get that fuck money somehow.
Yeah. Have you ever worked with him, Brian?
I never worked with him, but I actually got to meet him around WrestleMania weekend because he made an appearance as a Starman in Joey Janela's Spring Break.
That's right. Yeah.
Where he beat Ethan Page in like 3 seconds.
That's awesome.
He was cool to talk to when I spoke to him.
Was he?
And what's even funnier, speaking of Ted DiBiase, I actually got to work with him and his son years ago, and I have the only Funko Pop in my Funko Pop collection because I really don't collect that. I have a $1 Million Man DiBiase Funko Pop.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so it's funny that Virgil's on here, but I really have a DiBiase Funko Pop right next to me.
That's awesome. All right, I think we got one more here. Oh, well, this is a
Oh
surprise.
boy.
Who's that stud? Who was that stud, and why is he not me? All right, hailing from Strong Island, New York. Not saying his weight because his weight is not important. He is the voice of many different promotions, including, but not exclusively to, Invictus Pro Wrestling. Wink. This is the voice of a new generation. Well, not really new because he's been around for almost 10 years. Ryan Peterson. Oh, wait, that's me.
Huge pop. Huge pop.
Big
Huge
pop.
pop.
Big pop. Tremendous. That was good. So that has been making their way to the ring.
Jeez.
Ryan is available for cameo appearances.
Cameo, fans
Right.
only,
Yeah.
you name it.
Yep, absolutely.
You can also catch him on the hub, but that's free.
Oh, yeah. unless it's premium.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go.
There you go. Can only find this man behind a paywall. So we'll move right now then into our news roundup. All right, folks, we are back with our news roundup for this week where we talk about all things in the wacky and wonderful world of professional wrestling.
Hey,
First things first, we are 1 week removed as of today. We're recording this on Sunday, so we are 1 week removed from the Royal Rumble, which is going to take place on the 31st. We have any predictions at this point on who we think might win? I made a bold claim a few weeks ago that it was going to be Big E. As of right now, he still hasn't been announced as an entrant. But it seems like now the public opinion is sort of gravitating towards Daniel Bryan.
I was actually going to say Cesaro was kind of like my wild card pick. I saw someone like in one of the pages that I follow sort of be like, what if this is the direction they're going? I'm like, I'm not going to lie. I would kind of be a big fan of that. Like, if they went out of nowhere and went in that direction, I mean, it's unlikely, because Cesaro's not been the most pushed guy his whole run. But if they just out of the blue went that direction, I would kind of be intrigued to see what would happen. But, I mean, especially after all the praise his match with Daniel Bryan was getting recently, who knows? Hopefully it gave management some idea to see what they can do with him. But if not, Daniel Bryan would be a very solid pick, and I can totally see them going in that direction to set up him versus Roman.
Yep, absolutely.
Not to bash anyone on. It's tough when it comes to the Rumble, in my opinion, because on the men's side, you really don't know. The women's side, I have an idea who I think, and right off the top of my head, based on everything I see, I'm going for Bianca Belair to win the women's side.
I could see that.
They've been pushing her like crazy with her little thing with Bayley now, and Bianca Belair has been phenomenal. on the the women's division. But I feel like on the men's side, it's tough. But I have a feeling that someone from SmackDown is gonna win, or if it's someone gonna be from Raw, then my wild card is gonna be Keith Lee.
Oh, salt check.
That would be my wild card, but like you were saying, with the way that things have been going, it could be either like Daniel Bryan or Cesaro. It's tough. That's the one thing. I mean, granted, the last couple of years, the Rumble matches have been very predictable of who's gonna win. I mean, don't get me wrong; they were both great. They were both great choices. Like you had Seth Rollins winning in 2019, and Drew finally getting his moment last year. But like the other years, like the year before that, Nakamura won, which no one expected him to win at all. So again, this year with everything going on with the pandemic wise, it's tough of who might win. I mean, who knows? Maybe via wild card, maybe R-Truth can win it, or Dominic.
I would love that.
Or Dominic Mysterio. It's really tough, in my opinion.
But if R-Truth wins, he can finally face his all-time hero growing up, John Cena.
Yeah, there we go.
Being accompanied by Little Jimmy. Little Jimmy makes a one-night return.
The opportunities are endless for promotion.
Oh, they are. But on the women's side, I feel like it is going to be Bianca Belair. That's just, my opinion. Either way, it's going to be great. It's going to be great overall, in my opinion.
It should be good. I mean, yeah, the Rumble matches themselves should be very interesting. However, the non-Rumble matches that have been announced. I mean, well, let me backtrack a little bit. Roman Reigns versus Kevin Owens is going to be great. Especially, I mean, I've spoken before, but this incarnation of Roman, you know what, better late than never. But I'm very glad that they've sort of arrived at where he is. Like they've props to WWE for actually handling something right. They've actually created a bona fide main event star. Kevin Owens, I love him to death. I have, been a fan of his since the ROH PWG days. And it always breaks my heart every time they kind of build him back up into the main event picture. I can't see him winning this. It's going to be a great match, especially considering the last man standing stipulation. But I don't know.
And one thing on top of the whole thing with Roman Reigns, I like what he's doing with Jey Uso, finally getting him, being a part of that push as well. Because if you've really paid attention, ever since Jey Uso became aligned with Roman Reigns, they've been literally like, he's been on top of his game. I think the best he's been in years.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, when you mention the Usos, who's the first person they think of? Jimmy. Why? Because not only is he the first person that you see from the Usos, but also he's, not to knock him down, but he's married to Naomi. No one really thinks about Jey Uso, but then ever since Jey, I think he tore his MCL or ACL last year. He's still out in injury. And then Jey Uso had to step up to the plate, and he's been killing his feud with Roman Reigns for the last few months were some of the best storytelling I've seen in wrestling in years.
Well, definitely. And he's now confirmed as an entrant in the Royal Rumble. Jey. So you talk about wild card picks, like maybe
that would be a major wild card pick.
Would be, realistically, I don't see him winning it, but I do think I hope he has an impressive showing. I hope they sort of keep him on the fans' minds in that regard. But yeah, and then we got Drew McIntyre versus Goldberg, which
oh my god,
should just be a red fart. I really hope that they put that one on after the Rumble so that I'm sufficiently hammered by that point. Probably not.
This is gonna sound weird. I'm calling for Drew winning, but Miz cashing in.
Interesting.
It's interesting. For fuck's sake, I just hope Goldberg doesn't win. And I say that as a former huge Goldberg mark. You know what I mean? When I was growing up watching wrestling, I loved Goldberg. Goldberg was my most prized possession action figure that I had in my collection. Like he was the man. He was someone who I wanted to be when I grew up, kind of thing, you know?
Yep.
Yeah.
But as he has come back and come back and come back, to say his weaknesses have been put on display would be an understatement. He has gotten go-away heat with the fans. And I think at this point, even when they booked him, they knew it was going to be controversial, and that's a part of why they booked him.
The Fiend.
Yeah, exactly. So that's my 2 cents on it. But I was very. I had to turn off the TV when that was on. Not gonna lie. I was just like, I hate whenever I think something's going well, they just have to shit on it.
I don't know. But yeah, Ryan, to your point, I think it playing out that way with the Miz cashing in could be the only way they could kind of salvage that and
True.
Somewhat interesting. I hate the thought of, the Miz, because I love Drew as champ. I've said this before on this podcast. I think, this is like the culmination of just, years of him, busting his ass and deserving it. And I as much as I would like to see him going into Mania as champion, who knows how it's going to pan out.
But also, a lot of people don't know this, but apparently Goldberg signed like a 2-match-a-year contract and whatnot. So obviously this is match number one. I don't know, but
he's listed as a rumored entrant in the Royal Rumble, so maybe that'll be his second match. Just banging out both in one day.
Oh my god!
And then we don't have to see him for a year.
Yeah, exactly.
I think so.
Yes.
I'm looking at some of these rumored entrants: Tatanka, Sergeant Slaughter, and I mean, I guess they do it for Sergeant Slaughter. Yeah, they're rumored. But I'm saying, that's what I'm getting at. These, it's nostalgic, but it's just I don't want to say
it's funny you mentioned a rumor. It's funny that
if I were them,
sorry.
No, I was just saying if I were them and they didn't have a full-on live crowd, what's the point in investing all this money in some guys who are going to get a pop and just?
There were a couple of rumors I heard though.
Sergeant Slaughter, as far as I know, he's still very active backstage. It's not like he's itching for a paycheck. Well,
I mean, they're probably trying to like not put more money than they need to in a certain thing. So, like for example, if someone's backstage, it's like, all right, you could easily be an entrant. How many other guys who work backstage are also entrants in the Rumble? There's plenty of them.
Adam Pearce.
And speaking of rumors, apparently there's potential talks of trying to bring in Carlito as a surprise entrant.
That was also, I heard that for the Raw reunion or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think they were trying to sign him back.
I was reading something about Carlito about a week ago, and I forgot who was saying it. They were saying he was a really good worker. I liked Carlito.
He was, yeah.
Yeah. I was a big fan of Carlito, but they said he should have put more effort into his wrestling than, I guess, trying to hook up with people backstage. I don't remember who said that, though. I remember reading it, though.
For the women's side, Taya Valkyrie.
What if Tessa Blanchard debuts?
That could be another one too. Taya Valkyrie, because I think she just ended her stint with Impact, and they supposedly arrested her.
Is that? Yeah, I was about to say, is that why she murdered?
Because
Johnny Bravo.
And Tommy Dreamer said to Rosemary, she'll be gone for about 2 to 3 years, and be arrested in either Jacksonville, Stanford, or Baltimore. And I feel like it's gonna be with WWE because not only is she like one of the top female talents, which I think
her husband works there too.
Well, that too, but also I feel like the women's division for the main roster needs that star power because NXT NXT they're great down there, and they just signed 3 more talent down there. They just signed Priscilla Kelly, which I'm a huge fan of, and also Elena Black. Obviously keep them down there in NXT, but if more seasoned stars, bring in Taya Valkyrie, which would be a great star power. Maybe put her on Raw with her husband, and also if rumors like you said, Nick, Tessa Blanchard, that would be huge.
Yeah. No, it's going to be an interesting one. I think regardless, any new wrestling is good wrestling to watch nowadays. So,
and apparently another rumor, Brock Lesnar might be coming back
in the women's rumble, right?
Oh, of course, in the women's rumble.
Yeah.
No, but apparently he's supposed to come back as a face. I can see it how too. Probably have him feud with Roman Reigns because Paul Heyman, his business partner, is working with Roman, and he feels betrayed. So kind of building up with that.
Yeah,
I get that.
And I think it's his final run too.
But he also did have a whole thing with Drew. There's also a chance he goes back down that route.
Yeah.
I guess only time will find out on that.
Yeah.
Only time will tell, and only his bank account will tell, depending on how much Vince wants to throw at him this time around.
Very true.
But Goldberg will be in the women's rumble. He'll win the women's rumble. Thank you.
That's what they need to start doing. They need to start putting guys like Goldberg and Brock in the women's rumble, so that way they can start spreading out, and start bearing all the talent, not just the men's talent.
Or at this point, put in Reginald in the women's rumble after what he did with Sasha. That was great.
Yeah, no, it's true. And I've loved Carmella since she's come back. I'm not gonna lie.
Mm-hmm.
She's gotten a lot more edgier to her, and she's doing some solid work.
And I think that's the one thing that Raw is kind of lacking. It's kind of lacking, the edginess of what it used to be. Like on Fox, they're more sporty and edgy, which I love. But Raw, especially that it's 3 hours, it's kind of like dragging a little bit.
Do you think? Yeah. I mean, it's kind of ironic. It's kind of ironic. SmackDown's doing better character and storyline development, and they have one less hour to work with. You know what I mean?
That's
because they're not trying to fill gaps. They're trying to actually squeeze as much in that they need to get in as possible. With Raw, I feel like if you have that much extra time, you're like, oh my God, I have to fill this, this, and this, and I have nothing. You maybe have 4 or 5 guys who are going to be over and going to really produce solid work and everything, and the rest you have to just sort of figure out. If you have 4 or 5 guys on SmackDown who are in solid storylines, you could make that 2 hours. You could make that a solid 2 hours if you give them even 2 segments each.
All I gotta say is bring back Raw Underground. There's your 3rd hour.
Exactly. Well, I mean, hey, that was a good compromise to try and be all right, we need to throw something at the wall just to entertain people for an hour and not have them question what we're doing. Why not?
Yeah. So moving right along into I like that we're having some good debate, some discussion here, because this next topic is definitely going to warrant it. Earlier this week, The Undertaker was a guest on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast. They spoke for over 2 hours about a myriad of different topics, but probably the biggest one and the one that's caused the most conversation, to say the least, on the internet was Undertaker talking about the current wrestling product, and I'll read the quote so that nobody can blame us taking it out of context. But Undertaker said, "It's tough for me right now to enjoy the product because the product has changed so much and it's kind of soft. I'll probably piss a lot of people off, but they need to hear it. It is what it is." And then he went on to say, "That era of guys too, those were men. You go to a dressing room nowadays, it's a lot different. I remember walking into my first real dressing room and I saw some crusty fucking men, right? Half of them had guns and knives in their bags, and shit got handled back then. Now you walk in and there's guys playing video games and fucking making sure they look pretty. It's evolution, I guess. I don't know what it is, but I just prefer, I don't know. I just like those eras, man. I liked that when men were men." So obviously created a lot of controversy, but I wanted to know our thoughts on that. And I have mine. I've been thinking about what I was going to say all week, but I'll give the floor to you guys first.
I mean, I get what Undertaker's saying, but people are a product of their time. You know what I mean? Like, I get things were a lot different then than they are now. I kind of get what he's saying, but I kind of disagree with him at the same time. You know?
He also has to keep in mind that they're working with a PG product.
Yeah.
You know, I agree with some elements of what he's saying. The product is not as edgy. The product is soft. I will 100% admit that. You know what I was thinking about? Our conversation that we had in a previous episode where we were saying, after the whole Fiend burning thing, you know, what's the difference between edgy and what's the difference between that and what we saw? And I was trying to come up with the best way to formulate it. And the best way I can say is I don't want something that's going to insult my intelligence. The Pat McAfee episode where Adam Cole was on and the whole cursing incident, you know, when he just shouted him, that was the closest in a long time I think many fans were worked. The reason for that is because they did something that didn't insult our intelligence and also felt real. When was the last time we saw someone on the WWE roster actually like dropping F-bombs and like saying shit on someone else's podcast? It felt very fourth wall. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So I agree that the current product is soft, but I feel like there's only so much you can do. Like that was a rare exception because like that wasn't a WWE branded thing. It was something they advertised, but it wasn't under their umbrella. It's hard to have an edgy product consistently when you are only limited to PG. So that I do agree. What I disagree with is the whole backstage locker room stuff. Well, back in my day, I was dealing with murderers and robbers and thieves and all this kind of shit. And like, I get that. Like, maybe some of the guys back in the day were badass and you guys all thought you guys were like the shit, but like, I would not fuck with Braun Strowman if I saw him in the locker room. You know, I would not fuck with half of these guys. So, yes, maybe there's some more guys who are a little bit smaller. Maybe there's some guys who like their video games and, you know, Xavier Woods, who's like the most adorable weeb of all of us, you know, with his shit that he does. But, and people like that. But I don't know. I think it's some of that felt a bit unnecessary. He should fall back like his hairline.
But I agree with Nick on the points. Then coming from his perspective, he's coming from the old school, because before WWE he was part of the whole territories back in like the 80s and whatnot. So I kind of get that old school mentality, and especially seeing the product change from like the late the 80s, like the early the early 90s when WWE was all character wise, which I'm surprised he didn't mention that, and then going right into the Attitude Era, and then going right into the edgier thing, and then edgier thing until like when he finally somewhat not died down, but finally reduced his time in like 2011. So it's changed. It's changed a lot, and like Nick said, you're dealing with a PG product nowadays. Whereas, back in the day, you were dealing with more edgy. But nowadays, especially in the world nowadays, you have to be careful with everything. You have to be very politically correct and everything. So it's tough. But I agree on the aspects, but also disagree. With how But especially when he said like Nick said, well, back in my day, men were men and we killed. It's the old school mentality, but nowadays, just get with the times. But otherwise, yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly. Just like I said, it's a product of its time. The Attitude Era can't survive nowadays.
Oh, please.
And, and it's like he goes, "Oh, I don't want to sound bitter, but I love Undertaker, but that's exactly how he sounds too."
Yeah.
But at the same time, I do gotta say I do respect his opinion. He was the locker room leader for SmackDown for the longest time.
Yeah.
And he was very, so I respect in that sense how like he's clearly very passionate about his time in the business. So I do get that.
Undertaker will always be top 5 wrestlers in my book. I respect the man immensely. He was my childhood. He was my adulthood. So I respect what he's saying, but he's just got that old way of thinking.
He'll always be number one with me, and also the only guy that can ever pass off saying all elite Scooby-Doo. That's all I gotta say.
I think what rubbed a lot of people the wrong way about these particular comments was like this insinuation that the product being soft is somehow like connected to or a result of the locker room culture, which I don't think is accurate. You know, I love listening to, you know, Jim Cornette and the like tell, you know, old stories of like back in the day in the locker rooms, and I could watch Dark Side of the Ring, you know, for hours.
Oh,
But I think, you know, I listen to it as just that, entertainment. I by no means think that we should, you know, return to that lifestyle where, you know, these guys were dying by the age of 40 and like, you know, there's this constant threat of like violence and, you know, so, you know, it is tough to kind of reconcile. But I think, you know, I think there's a lot we can learn from that generation of wrestlers. I think, you know, in terms of in-ring work, in terms of, you know, psychology, work ethic, absolutely. But I think, you know, there's certain things that should be left in the past. I mean, that's my take on it. I think, you know, that was why wrestling's moving in a good direction. And, you know, it's one thing to, you know, talk about like the, you know, how the Attitude Era, you know, it's not as edgy as it once was. But at the same time, you know, as a result of wrestling, you know, becoming more progressive and more, you know, inclusive and kind of open-minded, we're getting a lot of great talents, especially coming up now on the indies that, you know, let's face it, would not have even been given the opportunity back, you know, 10, 20 years ago. So evolution is a double-edged sword, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. And I think is also what The Undertaker was trying to say, but I think maybe some of his comments got lost in translation there. It's something that I've been grappling with a lot, not just in wrestling, but like in a lot of media, you know, just nowadays, a lot of like artists and creators that I'm fans with, like they get outed as shitty people, and then you're left like not really feeling sure how to feel about it. And a lot of like, you know, reconciling the art with the artist. You know, I am a fan of The Undertaker, and I always will be a fan of The Undertaker. Mark Calloway, maybe he's not my cup of tea, you know.
Yeah, he seems very anti-mask to me.
He is. He's worn like, you know, Blue Lives Matter shirts and stuff, and walking on podcasts and stuff. But whatever. We don't have to get political, but I'm just.
Yep. Sorry.
No, I mean, it's worth bringing up. I think, you know, is that you know, what's that saying about not meeting your heroes? You know, because you'll
always be disappointed.
Yeah.
unfortunately, that's true.
First,
See
JK.
like a nice gong just to like hit the thing and just have all the lights go out.
Yep.
He like appears behind me.
And if he calls you all elite Scooby Doo, then run.
Fast as I can.
However, I prefer Kazuchika Okada Scooby-Doo comments. Remember when he was just going on his like coked out phase, and it was just like Scooby-Dooby-Doo before he would jump off the turnbuckle.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, what else do I got here? Impact No Surrender pay-per-view was announced. The first and as of right now only match that was announced was the latest in this partnership invasion angle, whatever you want to call it, between AEW and Impact. So it's going to be the Good Brothers, Doc Gallows and Carl Anderson, defending their Impact tag team belts against the Private Party with Matt Hardy. So I guess my big question here is, do we think this partnership, I mean, we're now like a month into this thing, give or take. So what are our thoughts on like how it's going? Like, what do we see like its longevity as, like its end game? Has this become too much of a a crutch for Impact? Are they relying on it too much? Would like to know your thoughts.
Me personally, I like it, the concept, because it shows, two major promotions working together, kind of like what Ring of Honor did with New Japan. They had that partnership, two major companies working together, doing possible dual shows, having New Japan wrestlers on Ring of Honor shows and vice versa. I actually caught Hard to Kill, mainly just for the main event of Omega and the Good Brothers with Chris Sabin, Rich Swann, and Moose. It was supposed to be the Motor City Machine Guns.
Yeah.
But that was my first time. That was my first time I ever bought an Impact Wrestling pay-per-view, and the entire show was, solid from start to finish. Especially with Sami Callihan and Eddie Edwards in that barbed wire massacre, which was great. And what popped even more for me was that there was a Nintendo 64 controller with barbed wire, so I was like, done. That won it for me. But and like you said, Alex, Private Party going against the Good Brothers for the Impact World Tag Titles. I like it because it brings more viewers, especially for those casual AEW fans that really don't know about Impact, and vice versa. Impact, not knowing what AEW is, it brings more eyes to the product. And on Hard to Kill, they announced their next major pay-per-view, which is happening in April, which is Rebellion. And I didn't notice this, but someone pointed it out. If you look at the graphic for the graphic for Rebellion, in the little circle under the name, it's the Omega symbol, meaning that Kenny Omega will eventually possibly be on that pay-per-view. And the stories that I'm hearing, rumors that I'm reading about, there may be a potential collision at Rebellion, because apparently Kenny Omega might, become the quote-unquote new belt collector, and it might have a match between him and Rich Swann for, title for title, and have Kenny Omega not only be the AEW World Champion, but also become the Impact World Champion. Because at Hard to Kill, in that six-man tag, Kenny Omega pinned Rich Swann, who is the Impact World Champion. So kind of, feeding the seeds just a little bit. But I love the concept, and also it could give, some people on Impact, a chance to show up on AEW and possibly do their better version of an invasion angle.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my opinion. Not because I worked with Impact, but I'm just, stating my opinion.
Oh, I definitely feel that. It almost reminds me in a sense of so when I was working with Evolve, right, I worked with them at the tail end, the last year that they were in business. And that was when, Gabe would bring in the NXT guys for meet and greets every show. So you get this line down the block to meet Keith Lee or, Adam Cole or whoever was there. But because those fans were buying tickets to meet and greet those guys, as a result, now they're being exposed to some really good talents on the Evolve roster, which, that they wouldn't have gone out of their way to seek out in the first place. So I almost feel like it's a similar, relationship that's going on right now with Impact, is that, a lot of the AEW fans who are, more, for lack of a better word, casual, are now, having the Impact roster, which has a phenomenal roster of talent in their own right, are now, being brought into their field of vision. But yeah, I guess I'm just, I'm just kind of wondering, what's the end game with it? And I'm kind of wondering too, you made the comparison between Ring of Honor and New Japan and that partnership. I think, when Ring of Honor was at its peak and they had the Bullet Club or Elite thing, Ring of Honor was, was able to sort of stand on their own. They could bring over the New Japan guys a couple times a year for special occasions, but, Ring of Honor was still selling out, buildings on their own right. So I'm wondering, in this case where AEW is clearly the dominant company, and they've been positioned as such in this partnership, I'm kind of wondering, what the yeah, like what is the end game? But we'll see. We'll see how it
And
turns out.
it's like I said, like you said, with your example with Evolve, it's bringing in, more viewerships to, to Impact and AEW for like those casual fans that don't even know, like, like those hardcore AEW fans, and they see, Doc Gallows and Luke and Carl Anderson. Like, wait, we know that from New Japan. What titles are those? Impact? Oh, what's Impact? Let's tune in to see what that is. Like really bringing in, the eye traffic out there. And then apparently when Kenny Omega won the title in December, they said he showed up on Impact. Viewership went through the roof on that night because it's the casual AEW fans. They see him on there, like, oh, okay, and little by little it'll get viewerships up and running and whatnot.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'm excited because I mean it feels genuinely unpredictable, which is good, and I haven't felt that way about wrestling in a long time. So I'm excited. I'm still bought in. I'm still very invested, and I'm still excited to see what happens.
My question to you guys about this is that had the pandemic not happened and whatnot, and there were fans allowed, and this partnership was happening, how would you feel the fans would react?
It's a good question. I mean, are you saying the Impact fans or the AEW fans?
Both of them.
Like, I think they'd have very different reactions.
Maybe Nick can chime in.
What?
Talking about we're talking about AEW and Impact doing their partnership. What are your feelings about that?
I mean, it's only now starting to get interesting, in my opinion. First couple weeks were between Bullet Club showing up and now Private Party showing up, I'm starting to now sort of like, I was really excited at first. I was very let down the following week when like Kenny Omega gave the same promo basically on Impact and AEW. I was like, all right, well, this is just another letdown. But hey, if they continue to do what they're doing now, I'm all for it. But that's really what I got. Yeah, it's if they make it interesting, it'll be interesting. If they just do it to be like, hey, look at what we got going on. Don't brag about the partnership. Just do it. That makes sense.
No, that definitely does. So my last bullet point here, in the world of our very own world of indie wrestling, this coming weekend, Game Changer Wrestling, GCW, is going to attempt something never before done in the world of wrestling. They are attempting to set a world record by holding a 24-hour continuous wrestling show. It's called GCW Fight Forever, and it's going to be going from the 29th to the 30th of January. It looks like it's going to be really interesting. They're dividing it up into blocks, which is going to be cool because they have different promotions coming in for different blocks. Some of them are like themed, like they're doing Effie's doing he's calling it the Big Gay block, and then Alley Cat is doing like a women's wrestling block.
Real hot girl shit.
Real hot girl shit. Yep. So should be really interesting, and it's going to be streaming for free, which is exciting. They got a lot of sponsors, and then they have a donation link. 100% of proceeds going to the wrestlers, so we'll link that. Some of our guys are wrestling on it, so we'll make sure to link that. But they literally just now, right before we started recording, announced they're doing a 60-minute Iron Man match between Tony Deppen and Jordan Oliver, which is going to slap very hard. And I'm very excited for that. Yeah. And then they're also doing our friends over at Camp Leapfrog are doing a 10-man Cybernetico.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're doing like a team match, which should be pretty exciting. So yeah, it should be a lot of good stuff. We'll be a little bit busy, Nick, you and I. We can't say with what right now, but we'll tune in if we're able to, if we have some downtime. But yeah, really exciting time to be a fan of independent wrestling, and really exciting time to be a fan of wrestling in general.
My opinion, I love the concept. I mean, I love the fact that GCW, pull up the donation link again, because they did something like this similar. I think it was a couple of months ago, where they did, I think it was the beginning of December. They had a show at a undisclosed location, which we all knew where it was, and they did a donation link, and I think from what I heard, they raised over $8,000 on that show.
That was a slime season, right? It was the show
slime
that
season, yeah.
they were supposed
And
to
that-
do in Vegas, and then they weren't allowed to have a crowd, so they just did it for free and did donations.
And they did that in the span of like 3 hours. So imagine 24 hours.
Mm.
How much they can possibly possibly raise for just to the talent.
Yeah, and then they got all these sponsors coming on board too, which is it's really cool to see the community that wrestling brings together. So should be really exciting.
I mean, that's really what indie wrestling, actually not even indie wrestling, people should do in general, and that is help each other out during these tough times. Not not too hasty, not trying to separate each other, all come together. That's really what it should be, because that's the most humane thing to do.
Very well said.
Is to be there for each other.
Yeah,
1,000%.
no, for sure.
Cool. So that's all we got in terms of our news roundup. Ryan, before we sign off for the night, do you have any social media presence or anything you want to plug to the viewers at home?
Yeah, you can follow me on Facebook at obviously Ryan Peterson. You can follow me on Instagram at WrestlingMC, and I apologize for this. I am on Twitter. I just changed my name recently. I don't know off the top of my head what. I very rarely use Twitter, but just in case, it's at Ryan_MC, M as in Mary, C as in Charlie, 92 on Twitter.
Got you. We'll make sure to link that in the description. Ryan, thanks so much for coming on, man. This was a blast.
Yeah.
This was great. Thanks so much for having me, guys.
Yeah, and we look forward
Absolutely.
to seeing you soon. And now the fans at home can enjoy our exclusive sneak peek, because we're going to reveal the first competitors who are going to be in action at In Bloom on April 24th. So we'll transition into that now for Nick Outman, Ryan Gross, and our special guest, Ryan Peterson. This has been the Power Hour. Sayonara.